In this video, I want to talk about the compare and options section in your final render output. When you're dealing with your final renders, there are a lot of times that you need to make some changes. Whether you've used the image processing to tweak your model or you've done multiple renders and you really want to take a good look at the differences between them, there is a compare and options tab. Now, first, we're going to talk about the compare section. We have the option to compare with second selected image or selected image's output channel. Now, depending on how you rendered and whether or not you save the output channel, that will determine whether or not you have that option. For me, we're going to be dealing with second selected image. So I'm going to control select a second image that I created with this JBL speaker. The first thing that we need to look at is the difference between the two models. And we have a difference option. We can look at luminosity, we can look at hue, we can look at saturation, we can look at RGB, we can look at red, green, or blue. Or if we select none, we're looking at the straight image between the two. We can do a compare in a few different ways. We can do wipe, spotlight, or side by side. Most people are going to either look at wipe or spotlight because it allows you to move a spotlight over the model and get a good idea of the differences between the two. Or you can look at a wipe and move the slider left to right and get a good idea of the two. We can zoom into this model, for instance, go to 100% or 50%, so that way we get a closer view of what we're doing. Now, the differences between these two, it's the same camera view, the same scene, and all the same settings. The only thing I changed is the material of the speaker. One is a medium gloss plastic and one is a low gloss plastic. And you can see that with the medium gloss, we're getting some reflection from the lighting in our scene, but with the low gloss, it's absorbing all that and it's not reflecting those images. So we can get a good idea of whether or not we want to use low gloss plastic or a medium gloss plastic. So it's a very handy way to take a look at the differences between the model. Now, if we use the spotlight, it's also a good way to drag it over the model and see the differences between the two. You can change the spotlight radius if you need to make it smaller to look at certain areas, smaller detail. And we can also compare side by side. Now, side by side is a good option depending on the type of model you're looking at. In this case, exactly the same view, exactly the same angle, exactly the same scene. Wipe or the spotlight are going to be better options than side by side for us. We also have an options section. Now, the options section gives us first a display channel selection, RGB, red, green, or blue. So we can look at the differences in all of these sections between the two models. Now, of course, both of these are white. It's just a low gloss or a high gloss. So really looking at the RGB display channel is the best option for us. But in certain cases, if you're tweaking materials or tweaking values, you might want to look at one of these other channels. We have transparency in the background. In this case, it doesn't apply to our background, but this could be potentially a good option. And we can show clipping. In most cases, you're going to be taking two identical renders, maybe changing materials, maybe adding or removing a light, and looking at wipe or the spotlight option. You can apply this to many, many different renders. So currently we have 10 max rendered images, change it to 20. So this allows us to control select multiple images. So we can control select as many images as we need to, but we have to go back and forth between only two of them because this only really works with two images. This can also work for images like this car model. We can go back and forth and take a look at the lighting effects and different things. We can also apply image processing to some of these. So, for instance, we can do some advanced image processing on just one side. Maybe we want to change the gamma in that left scene. We can apply the image processing during the process of tweaking these values. You can see that I can get those greens to be close, but not quite the same, and take a look at whether or not I like one green over the other green. Or if I want to make the gamma brighter on one, I can take a look at whether or not the luminous intensity on this right image is better than the one on the left. Again, a great way to look at the difference in processing the two images using your image processing at the same time that you're comparing.